Hey dudes, what's up? First, you probably can't notice it, but I feel the need to point it out for some reason. I have a bleach stain on my shirt. That's it. Usually for videos, I change out of what I've been wearing during the day, just so I'm not constantly wearing the same 3 shirts, but today I just want to be comfy, so I'm wearing the same thing I was wearing all day. I'm not gonna change today, so I'm sorry, I'm feeling lazy. You're stuck with my bleach shirt. I never understood YouTubers when they would like point out something really small before they started their video, but now I understand. I know I just recently posted a reading your paranormal stories video, like literally 2 or 3 weeks ago. After I posted my last reading your paranormal stories, like I said 3 weeks ago, I have gotten probably like 30 more emails of everybody sending in their stories. So I figured it would just be the best to post another one right now. And I know that none of you guys are gonna complain about that because these are your favorite videos. So that's what we're doing today. I actually do not have any picked out today. I have not pre-read any. I'm just gonna go through my email and I am going to pick stories that have very catching titles. We'll see how this goes. All that being said, I guess let's just jump into a story. Let's just jump into it. Okay, so this is the first one that is jumping out at me because it's titled, "They Told Me She Wasn't Breathing." Interesting title. I feel like we haven't had one like that before, so let's get into it. I'm not too sure if this person wants me to include their name, so I'm just going to leave it anonymous. I have always been very open to paranormal experiences. I've had many things happen to me, but I've never been more grateful and terrified by anything until now. So, I had been staying with my girlfriend for a few months. Nothing strange had happened until this night. I was dead asleep and I am a heavy sleeper. It takes a ton to wake me up. I usually cuddle up with my girlfriend, but on this night I was sleeping facing the other direction because I was having back issues. It was about 2:30 in the morning when I was awoken by the sound of a woman's voice saying, "My name, wake up. She's not breathing," as well as the sensation of falling. I got up startled, but my first reaction was to reach over to my girlfriend, and sure enough, she was not breathing. I felt for her pulse, and she hardly had one. I was going to start CPR on her, but as soon as I opened her airway, she started breathing again. She took a sharp, deep inhale and woke up. She had bad chest pains and a headache from a lack of oxygen, but was mostly okay. It's happened twice since then, but I haven't heard the voice again. I was awoken by one of my girlfriend's favorite songs, and the last time by nothing at all. I have other stories if you are interested. Yeah, of course I'd be interested. So the first thing after reading that story that I'm personally thinking of is sleep apnea. I'm not sure if your girlfriend has been tested or has seen a doctor for any kind of sleep apnea, but since it's happened 3 times, I would suggest that. I'm not a doctor, but just from the things I've studied in college, it kind of sounds like sleep apnea to me. But thank goodness that something was able to wake you up and let you know that your girlfriend was not breathing. And thank goodness she's okay, but I feel like she should probably see a doctor at some point if it doesn't get better. But thank goodness the both of you are okay, and thank you so much for sharing that story with me. And again, you said you have more stories, so if you feel like you want to send me more and you are actually comfortable with me sharing your name, let me know. I was just a little bit uncertain because you put like your name, and I just don't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable, so I hope that's okay. But thank you so much for sharing your story. So this next story is titled "The Abandoned House Across the Street." This person has not shared their name, so I will be leaving it anonymous. I'm sure it's okay, but I just get so worried. I don't want to put out people's names if they're not specifically saying it's okay, or like, hey, my name is, or something, just in case. So this one says, "Hey Ash, I have another paranormal story that just crossed my mind from a long time ago. It's quite lengthy, so I apologize in advance. So when I lived in Texas, I had many experiences at my best friend's house. I would often go home after school with her and just wait for my parents to get off work. One day, me, my best friend, and her brother decided we wanted to explore the abandoned house across the street. So we did. Right away, I felt bad vibes. Outside, there was a little dog house with the name Spike on it. The windows were boarded up, even the door was boarded up, but we still managed to get in. The first thing we all saw were dead deer carcasses all over the kitchen floor, with their heads cut off, and it smelled of death and decay. It's a smell a person can never forget. We went into what I could only guess was a living room before there were symbols everywhere, demonic, satanic symbols. So we all knew that this was not a good place to be in, but we kept exploring. We decided to try to check out the upstairs. Right when we went up the stairs, we saw an orange curtain with a light on behind, which was strange considering this house doesn't have any electricity. This is when I felt drained of energy, but I continued on anyways. Her brother was in front of me, and she was behind me. As soon as I was halfway upstairs following her brother, I heard her scream, and another voice from a male, but it wasn't her brother. And immediately we thought we weren't alone, and that there was someone else there. When I looked behind me, my best friend had been pulled behind the curtain, but when her brother and I looked, she was the only person in there. Nobody else. We looked all over for somebody else and found nothing. When we examined her, she had marks around her neck. She and her brother ran out as fast as they could, and as soon as I was about to go out the door, I heard somebody whisper to me, "You shouldn't have come here." But again, I saw nobody. Needless to say, we never returned, and we never told anyone about it. Personally, to me, it sounds like maybe somebody is living there, and it could have been the person who had dragged all the deer in there and cut off their heads. The light could have been a reflection from like maybe the window getting in, like a crack. So maybe it wasn't electricity, because if the house doesn't have any electricity, I find it very hard to believe that there was a light from electricity, if that makes sense. It could have just been like a ray of light shining through the window, just trying to think logically. And then it could have been the voices that you heard, maybe the person living there. If there is, not saying that it definitely is, but if there is a person living there, they could have made themselves known because they were afraid. They could have been trying to chase you guys out. But everything else, I'm not too sure what it could be. Either way, very creepy story, and thank you so much for sharing it. This next story comes from Megan, and it's titled Guardian Angels and a Phone Call from Heaven. Hey Ash, my name is Megan. I love your videos, especially the viewer ones. I want to share 2 of my most meaningful experiences with you. They're both kind of long, but they're really amazing stories. The first one is when I saw what I think might have been guardian angels. Starting in 2016, my family has been going through a rough patch. It started with my mom being in a car crash that led to ongoing pain in her arms, then her dad being diagnosed with dementia. While everything was happening with my grandpa, my grandma, my mom's mom, was also having really concerning symptoms. It wound up being cancer. For 10 months, my mom and sister lived with their mom, taking care of her. My sister's making a smoothie. If you can hear anything downstairs, I apologize. At the end, Grandma wasn't herself, no matter how hard she tried to be. And she passed away October of 2018. Less than 10 months later, in August of 2019, I began seeing white orbs everywhere, mostly at night in my room, but really, I saw them anywhere. I've always seen things, and I got a feeling from them, like they were my angels, or even my grandma trying to give me a message. It felt like I was being given hope, but I had no idea why. A couple days later, I was out shopping with my mom. She told me that she had gone in for a mammogram, and that it came back weird, so they did a biopsy. And she was waiting for her results. I had no idea this was going on. That afternoon when I was leaving for work, my mom got the results. She had breast cancer. That was the last day I saw the orbs. That is, until her last week of treatment that November. She's still having some issues, but is cancer-free. I fully believe that those orbs were protective spirits trying to tell me that everything was going to be okay. My next story also involves my grandma. She was my absolute best friend, and her death hit me like a ton of bricks. I never went more than a few days without seeing her, and was even there the day she passed. I was dealing with my own health problems, physically and mentally, and I was on the verge of a breakdown. Maybe 3 months after she died, I finally broke down and begged to hear from her, and that night, I did. I always listen to chakra meditations while I sleep, and it takes a long time to doze off, but not this night. This night, I turned on the video, closed my eyes, and suddenly I felt like I was in a trance. I could hear a phone ringing. It wasn't my ringtone, but I knew it was for me. I answered, and my grandma was on the other end. She said everything she normally did, calling me her daughter, which she had always called me, and talking about things she couldn't have known. She even commented on my hair, which before she had died had been long, down to my waist and a copper ombre. But after she died, I cut it to my chin and dyed it black. My way of coping, I guess. She never saw it, but she told me she liked it. And she told me she just wanted to tell me that she loved me, but it was time to go. She said goodnight and hung up. I woke up with tears rolling down my face. I knew I hadn't woken up because I hadn't fallen asleep. I was expecting my video to be playing still, or maybe even be over, but it had been paused right where it would have been if somebody had really called at that time. The video was playing on my phone. I could have convinced myself to have a dream about her, but it really didn't feel like that. I'm sorry my stories are so long, but they're some of my favorites. I have so many others, some long, some short. and they range from really comforting to really scary, and even in between. Thanks, Ash. That was actually really sweet. Thank you so much for sharing that. The one about your grandma gave me chills as I was reading it. I think that's so cool that your grandma was able to come in contact with you after she had passed, especially when you needed her the most. I'm so sorry for your loss, and I'm so glad to hear that your mom is doing better and is cancer-free. That's amazing, and I'm so happy for her. Thank you so much for sharing your stories. I really, really enjoyed them. The next story comes from Hanan. It's titled Creepy Dorm Experience, and then in parentheses, not so creepy, so I'm intrigued. Hey Ash, I'm Hanan, and I really like watching your videos. So, I kind of have a sixth sense. Once I enter any place, I have feelings if there is something wrong. In 2010, I started my first year of college. The college was new, and the dorm was in a creepy location, basically 2 buildings in the middle of a desert with few houses far away. Anyway, I didn't like that dorm. The 2 buildings were 3 floors with an elevator. I'm used to elevators that automatically move from one floor to another, but this elevator was different. It would not move at all unless you pressed the button to go inside it. So one night, my friends and I were fooling around at 3 a.m. on the weekend, when most of the girls are out visiting their families. We were playing hide and seek on the ground floor, and all of a sudden the elevator moved from the 3rd floor to the ground floor. I was shocked, and I wanted to check, but there was no one there. We decided that the fun was over and we needed to go to sleep. My room was on that 3rd floor, and only we were there. The other rooms were empty. I've heard other girls hearing stuff, especially on this floor. One girl whose room is next to mine told me once that she got visited by an entity or a demon that handed her raw meat to eat, and she ate it. Thankfully, I left that place and dropped out because I didn't feel safe there. Sorry for my bad English and the long story. I have other stories that I will be sharing in the future. Don't apologize. I can understand it completely fine. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm confused as to why that girl, why would she eat it? I feel like she had to have been joking. Maybe she did see something and then maybe she was just like, yeah, he handed me raw meat and then I ate it. Because if some spirit visited me and was like, meat, I would be like, no, I wouldn't eat it, you know? Like, that's... Why would you eat it? Why would you eat it? Alright, this next email comes from Olivia, and she has about 3 stories in one email. Hi Ash, my name is Olivia and I'm from New Zealand. I love your videos. Thank you for making them, because in a way, they actually help me, because I know I'm not the only one that these things happen to. I have been told that I am clairvoyant and am an empath. It all started when I was 5. I started seeing shadow people and felt their presence around the house. My auntie is very much into the paranormal world. She is also clairvoyant, so she is the one I go talk to about this stuff. When I was 12, I started to feel things more intensely. I can walk into a new place and feel the energy of the house, or what happened in that house or location. Story 1. Reflection. When I was 12, we moved into a very old 2-story house, and as soon as I walked in the front door for the first time, I felt a huge weight on my shoulders and a burning feeling throughout my body. I told my parents, but they are the most skeptic people I know, so they never believe my brother and I when we tell them about this sort of stuff. One of my brothers can also see, but he can't feel presences as strongly as I do. My mom decided to put our family photos up in the hallway on either sides of the wall opposite from each other. One day, I was homesick from school and was sitting in the lounge where you can see right down the hallway, and I looked up and saw a young lady in very old clothing in the reflection of one of the photo frames. She was looking at the photo opposite, which happened to be a photo of me when I was a baby. Her head then turned to me, and as soon as I saw her face, my whole body started to burn, like when I first walked into that house. I jumped out of my seat and ran to the other side of the room, and then came back into the hallway. She was gone, and no one else was in the house. My siblings were at school, my mom was in the backyard, and my dad was at work. A couple of years ago, I read that you're not supposed to have reflective objects or mirrors facing each other because it creates a vortex. Ever since then, I am very superstitious about mirrors. I actually heard something about that too, that you're not supposed to have them facing each other because like something can happen, like a vortex like you said. So that's interesting that you actually had an experience with that happening. Story 2. The girl in the white dress. After a few weeks of living in that house, I got up around 1 in the morning to go to the bathroom and saw a little girl in a very old, ragged-looking white dress standing at the bottom of the stairs. Because I was 12 at the time, I ran into my mom and dad's room to tell them, and when they came to check, no one was there. Throughout the time of living in that house, my brother and I both saw the little girl a lot. Whenever I saw her, I felt this huge sense of pain and sadness. Interesting. I wonder if maybe like she lost her parents or something, or maybe she's looking for something. I don't know. That's interesting. Story 3, footsteps. When I was 15, my mom, dad, sister, brother, and I went on a small holiday for the week because I was competing in a gymnastics competition. My oldest brother stayed home. My brother rang my mom at 11:30 p.m. the night after I finished competing and asked if we came home early. My mom said no. My brother had said to my mom that he could hear footsteps and things falling in my room. Side note, the bedrooms upstairs have wooden floors, which didn't surprise me because my room was the most active in the house. When we came home the next day, of course in my room, my drink bottle, hairbrush, and small mirror had fallen to the floor. All of these stories happened in the same house. I lived in this house for 7 years, so there are many more stories about the house, like doors opening and closing, taps and showers turning on and off, but these 3 stories are the ones I remember the most. My parents still live there to this day, and I still feel uncomfortable but happy when I visit. Thank you so much, Olivia, for sending me those experiences. I wonder if, you said it was an old house, right? A very old 2-story house. I wonder what happened there. Maybe it could be that the lady that you saw in between the 2 pictures was just something that was like coming out of the void, like you said, and maybe the little girl died in that house. It could be. Have you tried looking up history of that house if you feel comfortable with it? Yeah, I wonder if there's anything specific that happened there to cause so much activity, and even like particularly in your room. If something happened there, maybe the little girl passed away in your room, and maybe that's why you feel like sadness and there's so much activity in your room. I don't know, but I would be very interested to hear if you ever have looked up history of that house to see if there were any passings or maybe a fire, because you did say that you feel a burning sensation. Very interesting, but either way, thank you so much for sending that in. I really enjoyed hearing about them. This next experience comes from someone from my Discord server, and it's titled My Encounter with the Devil. Hey Ash, it's Void from the server, and my god, I have a tale for you. So this literally happened a few nights back. This was the 1st of April, so this would have happened in March. So this literally happened a few nights back. And the only reason why I had an all-nighter one night, and tonight, I had a hyper-realistic nightmare where I found myself in a dark and smoke-covered room, bent over, standing in pain as if I was shot in the gut. While standing in this darkness, a large door in front of me slowly lifted up as blazing fire lights up the room from the other side. And what I saw was a vast valley of people in chains, screaming, crying out of pain as this large giant man sits upon a throne of what I remember was flesh and bone. He wore a tattered cloak with large, sleek black horns coming out of the top of his hood, and rusted chains wrapping around his arms and legs. And he had gigantic dragon wings that rested upon his throne, with matching tail coming out from behind him. Snakes surrounded his feet as he looked up at me with a blood-stained smile, with my dad's face. Ew! This nightmare shifted to where I was standing in front of a mirror within the same void, staring at my reflection as I watched it slowly morphed and twitched like a broken game. At one moment, it showed me walking back and forth with my head in my hands, another of me having an argument with my long-gone ex, and another with me twitching and crying against the mirror. This mirror, I believe, was showing me all of my emotions: dread, rage, and regret. Suddenly, the mirror went black as I see another me walks towards the mirror, wearing all black with chains on his wrists and neck, and having giant, sleek black horns coming from his hair. My own devil. He didn't say a word that I couldn't remember as he and I stared at one another before I, for some reason, began to lose my shit in the dream, screaming and yelling as I banged on the mirror. I remember wanting to kill this devil version of me in the dream. But after I managed to shatter the mirror, I remember grabbing their neck and jumping awake. I broke down after waking up because all I felt was sadness and rage, a never good combination in my case. But that is why I haven't been sleeping recently. I basically met the devil, and the devil is our own fucking demons. Void. Dude, that's a scary dream. I'm so sorry you experienced that. If I ever had a dream like that, I don't think I would sleep for a week. That's really scary. I'm so sorry you went through that, but thanks for feeling comfortable enough for sharing that with us. The next story comes from Nikki, and she titled the email Ghost Member. Hey Ash, my name is Nikki. I love your videos and I wanted to share my experience. Hopefully you'll read it on your channel. So I work overnights at a gym, and for a few months I've had some weird things happen. Things would move on their own, or I would feel someone touching me. But one night, around 2:30 to 3 a.m., I was cleaning the bathrooms, and I was in a stall wiping down the toilet. I heard someone walk in, saw a shadow from behind walk past me, go into the last stall, and close the door. In my head, I was frustrated because I had just cleaned that toilet. But when I was finished cleaning and walked out, a few seconds later, there was nobody in the bathroom at all. I freaked out and ran away. About a week later, we found a Ouija board in one of the lockers that had supposedly been in there for months. It just validated I wasn't crazy. A few months after, I had a lot of creepy things happen to me separate from this incident if you want to know more. I just didn't want this to be too long. Anyway, thank you for your content. You're amazing. You're amazing. Thank you so much for sending this in. Why did somebody put a Ouija board in their gym locker? That just seems like a weird place to bring a board and leave it for somebody to maybe find it. That's weird. But the fact that you had somebody, a spirit or something, walk in when you were cleaning the bathroom and just like go to the bathroom like a normal person but not be there, that's kind of cool. I don't know. I really like that experience because it's very interesting. Just when things go through the motions of doing something, but then when you go check, they're not there, if that makes sense. It's just very interesting. Okay, so those are all the stories I'm going to be reading in today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you to everybody who has sent me their stories so far. If you've not sent me a story yet and you want to, or you want to send me an update, you can send me your stories to ashparanormalstories@gmail.com. I'll put it across the screen right now, and then I'll also put it in the top bar of the description. So feel free to send me as long of a story, as short of a story as you want, or as many updates as you want. All that being said, I'm gonna go. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.